These are the notes for 3C, lesson 1. We're going to run through some of these problems. Feel free to pause at any point. As you can see, my chart here is already filled out. So we're just going to talk briefly about some inequalities. A lot of this is going to be a review, but we'll also look at compound inequalities at the end. So just a refresher on the symbols, you can see in my blue text, we have our greater than or equal to. Make sure we're reading those left to right. And when we start to solve, we'll see sometimes we end up with the x on the right-hand side and we have to make an adjustment. But just to start out, just a little refresher. You can copy this down. Feel free to pause the video if you need to pause the video to copy any of this down. But we'll kind of look at what this looks like more in practice in a second. When we're graphing, we want to think of how we're going to write this inequality so that we can show all the solutions. So for this first section, if I say x is less than 6, right, what I want to say, I want to come up with some numbers, right? So anything less than 6. So 5 would be a solution, 4 would be a solution, right? And so on. I could even have, numbers that are decimals or fractions. Like if I said 3.5, all those numbers are less than 6. So those all satisfy. Now, if I want to show that on a number line, I would have a little interval starting at 6, right? And that would be all of these numbers over here. So I'm just going to kind of scribble or shade this line all the way through. So all those numbers all the way toward negative infinity. So all of these numbers are to the left of 6, right? That's where those numbers are less. To the right would be the numbers that are greater. Now, when we're graphing an inequality that is simply less than or greater, that should say greater than, the circle is open, meaning if you look at that prior inequality, I wouldn't list 6 as a solution because 6 is not less than 6. It is equal to. So we're going to leave 6 open when we graph, right? We're just going to say, okay, here you can't have 6, but starting immediately less than 6, you're okay. So, if we wanted to look at like 5.9, that is less than. But 6 does not work. Make sure you go all the way to the end of that graph. Greater than, we're just going to go to the right, as we'll see in a second. But if we are less than or greater than or equal to, the circle is going to be closed because that will include that number in the solution set. So when I graph x is greater than or equal to 3, I'm going to fill this in because 3 will satisfy this equation. 3 is equal to, and we're going to scribble in all the numbers to the right. Okay, now this little box here is really important. It's going to come in really handy when we're actually solving these later on. But it does say when the variable is on the left-hand side, you can use that arrow. So if the arrow is pointing to the right, you're going to shade to the right. If the arrow is pointing to the left, you can shade to the left. But that only works, and this is really important, that's only going to work if that variable is on the left-hand side. So that's really important. Sometimes we may want to rewrite it so that it is that way. You could try graphing these two real quick. If you want, pause the video and then try those out, and I will show the solutions here in a second. So we're greater than 2. We're going to put a circle at 2. It's going to be open, and we are going to shade to the right. Over here, we're greater than or equal to 8. So we're going to fill that in at 8, and we are going to go to the right. So that's what my 2 graphs should look like. Now we're going to talk compound inequalities, and we have the words and or here. Now, and is an intersection. So what we're going to see here is we want numbers that are greater than 1, right? So I just kind of I'm sketching 2 numbers, so I'm just not going to shade in just yet. And then I also want numbers that are less than 6. So if you look at my and is my intersection. How are they connected? I want numbers that are bigger than 1 and less than 6. So that's not going to cover the entire number line or even go toward any of those infinities. Those are going to be these numbers here. So if you think about like the numbers that you see there, 3 is greater than 1. It's also less than 6, right? So only that set of numbers in between that interval will satisfy those solutions. So I'm going to get rid of those arrows, and you see that and is a connection. An OR graph, we see over here, is going to go the other direction. So we're going to say we want numbers that are either less than 2 or greater than or equal to 5, right? So you kind of see here numbers that are less than 2, there's a break in the middle, right? Those numbers, there's no intersection, right? They're not connected. They're pointing opposite directions. So an OR is saying like this or that, this group to the left or that group to the right. The AND is a connection. All right, so the homework that connects to this lesson is C3, worksheet 1. Thanks for watching the video.